Welcome to the course Food and Culture, the Mediterranean Lifestyle in Italy. I'm Dr. Vitullo, and I helped create this course. I'm very excited to be able to offer it online. It's a course I've wanted to offer for a while because I think that Italian food is one of the most interesting and also pleasurable aspects of Italian culture. So we could have a fruitful discussion about any of the terms in the course title, right? We could have a long discussion about what food means, or what culture means, or what Mediterranean means, what lifestyle means. But we're going to start by having a discussion about what Italy means, which might surprise you. We do know that it's a nation, right? But if I were to ask you which nation is younger, the United States or Italy, you might think that the United States is younger, which in fact is not correct. Italy is the younger nation. And we're going to be talking about why that's true and how it helps us understand the rich diversity of food traditions on the Italian peninsula. So the way we've designed this course is that it's divided into three large sections, three modules. And in the first module, we're going to be talking about the history and culture of Italian food. We're then going to move into the second module where we talk about Italian food from a more scientific, nutritional point of view, and in particular looking at it from the point of view of what we know about the Mediterranean diet. And then in the last part, we're going to be talking about Italian food from more of the perspective of lifestyle, or a sociological perspective. So today's first lecture is going to focus on history and culture, and once again, trying to understand why Italy unified so late and what that has to do with Italian food. And we're going to begin by talking about the position of the Italian peninsula in the Roman Empire and in the Mediterranean. And on the map, as you can see, the Italian peninsula was really, like the city of Rome itself, at the center of the Roman Empire, which brought together cultures that we think today as Western Europe, as parts of Eastern Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. So in the Mediterranean, there was trade of food products from all these different areas. And this is the beginning of the development of a rich variety of food products on the Italian peninsula. One example is the spice of cinnamon. Cinnamon comes from India, but was used in Rome during the Roman Empire because it first came overland and then was brought through Mediterranean trade and to the Italian peninsula. So moving on from the Roman Empire, which scholars talk about the fall of the Roman Empire in 476 in the 5th century, begins a period of time when you don't have strong political institutions unifying the Italian peninsula, or really Europe for that matter. And during this time, after the 5th century, you have what are often termed to as barbarians, groups of people from the north, Germanic peoples coming down into the Italian peninsula. But these peoples were the Franks, the Lombards, were really not barbaric at all. They came with their own cultures. And so in your first reading, you'll be reading about the history of food on the Italian peninsula, and the two authors of the book will be talking about the creation of a European food culture during this period, let's say from the 5th through the 10th centuries. And they talk about the creation of a European food tradition that brings together a Mediterranean tradition that was created during the Roman Empire that really centered on the main products in that diet are bread, wine, and olive oil. And these products also have important significance for Christian culture that spreads throughout the Roman Empire and into Europe. But the European food tradition that develops during this period in the early Middle Ages combines this Mediterranean tradition with a more Germanic tradition that really focuses more on meat rather than vegetables and produce, and on beer rather that focuses more on meat rather than produce and bread, and a culture that focuses more on beer than wine. And so the European tradition that develops from that is a combination of both the Germanic traditions and the Mediterranean traditions. So now we're going to jump ahead a little. Oh, before we do that, I just want to tell you that during this course, we're going to be talking about Italian food as part of this European tradition, this blended tradition. And then we're also going to be talking about Italy as part of a Mediterranean tradition. And part of this also depends on where we are in Italy. Italy is a very long nation, so if we're in northern Italy by the Alps, those food cultures are going to be very influenced more by Germanic models, by French models. And if you're down in Sicily, Sicily is going to be influenced by North African models. For one example is that if you go to Sicily, you might see couscous on the menu. And this is because of the fact that the Mediterranean traditions are stronger there. Although you do see the influence of the Mediterranean diet, the Mediterranean tradition throughout the Italian peninsula. So now we're going to jump ahead. We're going to jump ahead to the 13th century. And the reason we're jumping ahead to this 13th century is that is a period of time when new institutions start to develop on the Italian peninsula. And if you look at this map, you'll see that the map is really divided into 3 different colors, right? So, and the southern part of Italy, it's called the Kingdom of Sicily. Sometimes it's referred to as the Kingdom of Two Sicilies. But this is a part of Italy that during the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, even up to the point of unification in 1861, is controlled by foreign powers, usually by French or Spanish dynasties. And these foreign powers take advantage of both the physical and human resources of southern Italy. So unfortunately, southern Italy did not develop at the same rate as other parts of the Italian peninsula, in Turkey, especially in terms of talking about economic development and especially industrialization, which happens later. And then the blue part in central Italy is controlled by the church. Remember, in the late Middle Ages, there's only one church in Europe, the Catholic Church. The Protestant Reformation hasn't arrived yet. And this church is, the Catholic Church, the Pope, controls that territory, and it will, its secular power will grow, and it'll control even more territory in central Italy. Now, on the other hand, in northern Italy, you'll notice all these cities, Venice, Florence, Milan, and these are developing as they're referred to as communes. During this period, they're independent city-states. They have their own currencies, their own legal systems. But what's really exciting that's happening in Italy in the late Middle Ages, in northern Italy and parts of central Italy, is that a very lively mercantile culture is developing, and our Western banking system really develops here initially in northern and central Italy. And as I mentioned earlier, the same thing doesn't happen in the South. The South remains more agricultural. There's still the central and northern Italy is also very agricultural. But the same kind of mercantile development doesn't happen in the South as happened in the North and central Italy. And so we see this divide, and it will help us explain later one of the reasons that the Mediterranean diet stays stronger in the South. I'm just going to show you one more slide, and then we're going to take a break. Oh, I'm going to show you two more slides very quickly. This slide shows the trade routes of the late Middle Ages. It's another period in which new food products are arriving into the Italian peninsula because you have the same trade routes that existed in the Roman Empire and the Mediterranean, but also new trade routes going out from the Black Sea all the way to China. This is the period of Marco Polo, and it's another period that will be talked about in your book, in which pasta really spreads from the Middle East, where it's developed by nomadic peoples, which makes sense, right? Dry pasta, and it makes sense that it developed in dry, arid areas by nomadic peoples, and then that moves out from the Middle East to both Europe and east toward Asia. So we're going to stop there for a minute, and then when we come back, we'll start talking about the development of Italian food traditions during the Renaissance.